We will move on to the public comment portion of our meeting. Each person who will be speaking will have 2 minutes, and any person making personal, rude, or slanderous remarks or who become boisterous while addressing the board shall be requested to cease their comments and to leave the meeting. We will start with our Zoom presenters first. Will be Becky Hope. Are you online? Becky?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, go ahead, Becky, and then it will be Annie Massey.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right, thank you, board. In 2016, the USBE formed Access, the Advisory Committee for Educational Equity for Students. The first key word in this committee's name is equity. Equity, as it's being implemented in our kids' classrooms, looks like this. It means that educators must treat students differently according to the disadvantaged category the USBE tells teachers to think they belong in. There's no science, no objective, or even fair standard guiding this determination, and yet here we are. Equity is steadily displacing legitimate academic disciplines as the focus of instruction. The whole point of Access Committee is to push equity in schools. They have one job and that's it. They push equity proposals, decisions, and programs through the board's staff. The board's staff presents it to the board, and the board rubber stamps what objectively amounts to state-sanctioned discrimination in the classroom. Proof of this is revealed in grandma records of the Access meeting minutes going back for years. The board has never seen the full text of these minutes. I repeat, for over 6 years, the very people passing policy based on recommendations of Access have never seen the full text of the minutes of the meetings designed to influence how equity is integrated into schools. Isn't there a perverse irony in not being able to access the taxpayer-supported work for a group called Access? We strongly recommend the board disband Access and replace it with an ideologically diverse committee dedicated to reducing student achievement gaps for all children, irrespective of their race, color, socioeconomic status, or any other assumed disadvantage. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky, and thank you for staying in the time limit, too. Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Annie Massey. Annie, are you online? Annie? Okay, we'll move on to Jennifer.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
Sorry,
yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Annie, we can. After you will be Jennifer Orton. Thank you. Go ahead, Annie.
Hi, my name is Annie Massey. I am a parent of 3 children in the Davis School District. I just moved here from Alaska. And I want to start with a quick story, and hopefully it makes sense. It's an analogy to the reality of K-12 education for stakeholders in Utah. The morning that I sat down to write down my thoughts for this testimony, I had an agenda, and that agenda was to sit down, capture my thoughts, and write them. In that same time, I decided to insert another agenda. That agenda was to boil water so that I could have some tea. So then I had 2 agendas. And as I was capturing my thoughts, that water was sitting on the stove at the highest temperature, directed in the wrong place for a long period of time, because I let it keep boiling, because I wanted to make my agenda happen to write my public testimony. I wanted that agenda so bad that I ignored the reality of what was going on in the stove. I ignored it, I denied it, I dismissed it, and I deflected it so much that my whole house was permeated with toxic fumes from plastic that morning. And I want to tie this in. How does this apply to public education? Well, it's obvious that while some parents enroll their children in public education with an agenda for an excellent academic education, the institutions of education in our country and in Utah are corrupt and perverse with other agendas. And I'll get straight to those. They are social, sexual, and political. And they have infiltrated our classrooms and our K-12 schools by theories that should have remained in academia. We are asking our board members to protect stakeholders' interests. These theories should not be practiced on our children. They are thoughts and ideas, and
Annie,
they
that's
are
your time.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Annie, for speaking. Jennifer Orton? Jennifer, are you online? Jennifer? Thank you, Jerry. We'll go ahead and go to our in-person discussion now. Heidi Matthews? And then Sophia Anderson?
Good morning, board members. I am Heidi Matthews, teacher serving in my last year, actually 8 months, as the president of the Utah Education Association. And this morning, I would like to express gratitude for your commitment to inclusion and offer some thoughts on how to strengthen this even further. Thank you for your guidance on the understanding gender identity to best support students. As educators, we appreciate guidance, professional learning, you name it, anything that we can do to best support our students, particularly those who are most vulnerable, so they can feel safe and secure to learn and thrive in our classrooms. In our efforts to be inclusive in determining UEA priorities for the upcoming legislative session, we heard over and over that our educators need more time to be the best they can be for their students. And to that end, we've made a specific request for the equivalent of 5 days of paid educator-directed time, which amounts to about $54 million. And we hope we can have your support in giving this respect and support for the number one priority our educators have expressed in that time. And finally, regarding the PowerPoint training on R277328, the board rule was established for professional learning of all licensed educators regarding equity and inclusion. And while I understand the context and the pressures of the legislative resolution taken in the extraordinarily unprecedented extraordinary session last May, I think it's important to point out that the training of the rule does not promote equity and inclusion. It promotes compliance to a rule that has yet to reach its objective of supporting our educators so that we can be more equitable and inclusive in our classroom. As teachers, we are constantly motivating and teaching and working toward the standards that have been set, and then reflecting on ways and evaluating if we've reached our goals. So what is the measure of success of the current training on R277328? Will it be that our educators have the professional learning necessary to address the need for our students in professional ways? Or will the success of the training simply mean that they stay out of trouble while this training is being developed? Again, I understand the pressures you're under, and
That's your time, Heidi.
Thank you, and let me express with great relief in this Thanksgiving the vaccines for our children, and this hope of the great turning of the tide of the pandemic. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you. Sophia Anderson and then Monica Wilbur.
Spent a better half of the last maybe 20 months trying to discover and hopefully reveal who are the puppet masters behind CRT and equity and all of the Marxist leftist ideologies that are infiltrating every corner of our education system in Utah. Luckily, through grammar requests, I know exactly who are the puppet masters. The Access Committee and our own State Superintendent, Sydney Dixon, and a few others are the puppet masters who say one thing to the public, say one thing maybe to all of you, and are behind closed doors that I have privy to are saying the exact opposite things. Our state superintendent on a monthly basis goes on a white apology tour in these meetings, and it is horrifying and disgusting. Our parental rights are they're being infringed upon, and we're onto it, and we're not going to put up with it. When I come here and I see you guys, I kind of have to laugh to myself because you're elected officials, and I'm sure you think you're making the decisions for our children and your vote counts. But let me just tell you, when I read these grammar requests, you're really not making the decisions. The puppet masters are. So I would, if you care about our children and you care about parental rights, I would advise you to look into who is actually making these decisions. This is kind of just a facade. And it's fascinating. You will probably have a wonderful time reading what's actually going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next person up will be Monica Wilbur, and then Kathy Mulleney.
Good morning. Let's talk a little bit more about the Access Committee. I'm sure you're looking forward to that. With its strong influence of board policy showing up in rulings like R277328, which has been inaccessible to the public it serves. After grammar requests were made of Access's meetings, direction was given on how Access could avoid future scrutiny of its meetings through grammar by the board's own superintendent, Sydney Dixon. Dixon instructed Deputy Superintendent Patty Norman, saying, "These are being sent as per a grammar request. I am not sure who takes minutes, but in the future, summary points would be best. Perhaps a conversation to have with Access, so they know their summaries are public documents." This is the email. "Put aside the main point that Access's main mission is to help embed equity policies in schools. Let's just focus on the fact that Superintendent Dixon took direct steps to obstruct the transparency of its operations to the public and parents. If equity is such a great thing in our kids' classrooms, why is board leadership making it more difficult for people to know how Access is making this happen? Maybe Superintendent Dixon doesn't want parents to know that Access has been consulting with the radical critical race proponent Paul Gorski, whose group, the Equity Literacy Institute, defines a racially equitable classroom or school as one where we actively identify and eliminate all forms of bias and inequity and actively develop anti-racist, racially just policies, practices, and cultures. This is just one example. With all this disproportionate emphasis on racial politics, how in the world will teachers even have the time to teach the things that parents actually send their kids to school for, like learning math, science, English, the arts, and technology? We are asking that the board revise its policy 5001, Committee Policy Section 2, to comply with the Title 52, Chapter 4 of the Open Public Meetings Act. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Kathy Mulleney. Did I say that right? Yes. Oh, that's a miracle. And Bernadette Brockman after that. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. My name is Kathy Mulleney, and I'm from the Granite School District. I have 5 children currently in Hunter High School, and I'm here with a good friend, Milliput, who has raised children in the Granite School District and who has grandchildren now in the district. I'm happy to be here. I'm missing an exercise class. I'm missing a breakfast also with my sister-in-laws for their birthday. But it's important. When I was 5 years old, my kindergarten class in sunny San Jose, California, the teacher handed out little ballots of presidential candidates, and we got to vote for the President of the United States. In contrast, in my children's high school, in their homecoming vote, they were given descriptions of people. No picture, no real person, just descriptions of people. The vision for the board is, upon completion, all students are prepared to succeed and lead by having the knowledge and skills to learn and engage civically. We need to practice that in our high schools. This year, my children were asked in the first week of school what pronoun they prefer to use. They came and told me how uncomfortable that made them feel, but I'm proud of them for telling me. I know how hard it is to find your voice as a young person in high school. Injustices have come to all of us, and it's hard to know how to manage that. But as a parent, that's why I'm here. I wouldn't be here. I'm pretty comfortable in my life. I'd rather be doing other things. But there's a call out to me personally to come and advocate. While there are great things happening in our school district, every day there's great educators. Recent efforts to push CRT ideologies in our schools is completely unacceptable. Most parents don't even know what it is. Not everyone, especially not our children, would recognize right away the dangers of teaching that every issue comes down to a racial one. It's no secret that Davis School District has been found guilty of racial harassment. As a nurse, the repeated harassment is chronic. That's the term we use for chronic conditions. Where is the board to oversee that district out of compliance with federal law? We as parents hope to see some resignations or some kind of accountability. Where is the accountability?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bernadette Brockman, and then Juliet Reynolds.
Good morning. My name is Bernadette Brockman. I wanted to bring up a very concerning issue with you all. I understand and appreciate how busy you are with implementing CRT and SEL into our school systems, so you may not be aware of a growing parental concern that is gripping not only Utah schools, but schools nationwide. I'm talking about questionable books being offered to our sons and daughters in the public school system, a system you are responsible for. I gave Sybil some copies of what I have recently found, and I would like each one of you to please take a look at that. Are you aware of the definition of sexual grooming? If not, I'll tell you. According to the U.S. Department of Justice National Sex Offender Public website, sexual grooming is a predatory process in which a perpetrator gradually gains a person's or organization's trust with the intent to be sexually abusive. The victim is usually a child, teen, or vulnerable adult. You may be asking yourself why I'm addressing this with you, and I'll be happy to share that. Our school libraries are being overrun with sexually explicit material that is made available to kids as young as 5th grade. Are you aware of Utah Code 76-10-1204, distributing pornographic material? A person is guilty of distributing pornographic material when the person knowingly sends or brings any pornographic material into the state with intent to distribute or exhibit it to others. Prepares, publishes, prints, or possesses any pornographic material with intent to distribute or exhibit to others. By allowing these books, articles, magazines, etc. into our public schools, you are placing yourselves on a slippery slope of predatory behavior. Any reasonable person could conclude that the school system, which you oversee, is sexualizing and grooming our children. So what do you plan to do about removing such literature from our schools' library systems? The amount of time allowed for public comment is not nearly enough time to address these grave concerns, so I respectfully ask that the board add this to their December board meeting agenda so parents know that you are proactive in addressing these concerns and you are working toward removing inappropriate content from our school libraries. Thank you.
Thank you. Juliet Reynolds, and then Mike Brown.
Hello, and thank you for listening to my words today. I hope that you hear them. My name is Juliet Reynolds, and I am the parent who was part of the Equity Council in the Murray City School District. I was part of the panel who presented at the Pride Not Prejudice Conference in January of 2020. This is the day when Natalie Klein first came into my life. However, I was unaware that we had met because Natalie felt like he had to hide behind another identity to keep his own safe that day. You see, Natalie chose to be identified as a student, which he decided would keep his true identity safe, socially accepted, and would protect him from being rejected. There are 2 points of sharing this information with you today. First, I'm sure everyone wanted to correct me when I used the incorrect pronouns for Natalie. Even when you identify within the binary and you are misgendered, it is invalidating, feels totally wrong, and is a violation felt at the core of anyone's identity. Second point is, when Natalie's identity was vulnerable, she did everything she could to protect it and keep it safe so she could fit in. I'm sure she had an instant reaction, as did many of you, to correct me and defend the pronoun she has aligned herself with when I misgendered her. The need to protect and defend identity is a human trait and is just as valid for Natalie as it is for any other human. I hope this example has allowed you to think a little differently about gender and pronouns on a personal level. I hope that you can reflect on how validating your own pronouns are for each of you when deciding how to help our kids protect and defend their identities in schools. Our teachers need the ability to support all students in order for any of them to feel safe and protected. On another important note, you have received enormous amounts of evidence of an epidemic in the state of parental homophobia, racism, and intolerance that students face at home. This has been given to you willingly by parents themselves, month after month, email after email, public comment after public comment. How could any student feel safe in their own homes when their parents publicly display this intolerance? When developing policies surrounding pronouns and safe space, please gather information from school social workers and other staff who deal with our teens' mental health.
That's your time, please.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Mike Brown. And then Kelly Jones.
My name is Mike Brown. I have 5 boys in the Davis School District. I'm here to speak out against bullying. From the Utah State Board of Education website on bullying prevention, it states, bullying is commonly understood as aggressive behavior that is intended to cause distress and harm, exists in a relationship in which there is an imbalance of power and strength, and is repeated over time. I represent several parents who have been bullied by Davis School District President John Robison and Superintendent Reed Newey. Over the last 1.5 years, parents have been locked out of public board meetings, we've had sprinklers turned on us, we've been denied entry to public buildings, and public comment time is now limited. On July 13th, before a school board meeting, several parents and I were threatened by John Robison to be escorted out by armed police if we didn't move our chairs 3 feet apart from each other. I was again threatened during my public comment for bringing this up. A week later, after this incident was discussed on a local radio show by Utah Parents United, the next morning I was awakened by district security and armed police officers and given a trespass notice. I am now deemed a criminal if I pick up any of my boys from school. No reason was stated as to why I got the notice. I am now forced into a legal battle. These actions are the epitome of the state board's bullying definition of an imbalance of power and strength.
Shout out with your email addresses. I would like to send you the, it's a parent survey that
Somebody is online,
a
Jerry.
parent developed.
Thank you,
Okay.
Jerry, and we'll return your
Okay.
time to you, Mike. Okay.
Thank you. These actions are the epitome of the state board's bullying definition of an imbalance of power and strength. If a school board president can deem a parent a criminal because he disagrees with him, then we have a lawless society. This is a blatant abuse of power. I call on this state school board to formally reprimand President John Robison and Superintendent Reed Newey for their abusive treatment of parents. If Mr. Robison and Newey don't publicly apologize to parents, they need to resign. As bullies, they are unfit to lead our children.
Thank you. Kelly Jones? Oh, there you are, Kelly. And then Nathan Bigler.
I just have some letters for just pass around.
If you'll set them there, then we'll look at them.
Thank you so much. Let me just say, I am in Davis School District, and Mike Brown threatened my district, and that's why we have to wait outside now to get into board meetings. So just to set that straight. Dear Utah State Board of Education members, my name is Kelly Whited-Jones. I'm a parent in Davis School District, a teacher, and co-chair of GLISTEN of Northern Utah, an organization tasked with supporting students when they experience discrimination at school. We work with administrations to help build a safe place for our amazing LGBTQIA+ students and students of color. Every student deserves a safe learning environment, and we are happy to partner with school districts to make that happen. It might be the teacher in me, but I hope you'll allow me to simply discuss some terminology today. I have found in meeting with schools over the last few months that there's a lack of knowledge around how to simply discuss these issues. The vocabulary is not there yet. The right definitions are not there, even if there is good intent. We lack the language of equality. That is a great place to start to educate ourselves, and a clear reason we need to provide appropriate guidance and training for our staff, administration, and teachers. When we talk about a gay lifestyle, something I have heard recently from administration, what we are really discussing is someone who is gay living their life, an important distinction to make. While we know what to say and how to say it appropriately, we can do a better job for all of our students and teachers. It's come to our awareness after meeting with Davis School District and during the last Standards and Assessment Committee meeting that many of the board members might not understand the difference between gender identity and sexual orientation. Gender identity is who you know yourself to be. This would explain individuals who are cisgender. I am a cisgender woman, which is when your gender identity corresponds with the sex you were assigned at birth. I'm going to ask, as a co-chair of GLSEN of Northern Utah, for an additional minute to speak.
Kelly, we don't do that, okay? We don't give
You don't
additional
give,
time.
okay.
So,
Okay,
we'll-
this information is contained here, and I would love it if you would take a minute to read over that. Please reach out if I can be of assistance.
Thank you so much,
bet.
thank you. Nathan Bigler. And then Ginevra, I knew I was going to mess this up. I'll suggest Ginevra, okay, P, how's that? Okay, Nathan, sorry.
Thanks, no problem. I'm Nate Bigler. My pronouns are he, him. I'm currently the parent of two students in Granite School District. I've had a total of 10 students in Utah schools, some for a very short time and some for years. I'm an Army combat veteran and former foster parent. I earned 2 Bronze Star medals and a Combat Action badge during 2 years of war. Not because I'm brave or exceptional in any way, but because I cared about my battle buddies and did my best to support them and protect them. I was a foster parent for the same reason. I had the opportunity to show support and care for some children who needed a little extra for a while. In the past couple of years, I've been pleased by how 3 of my transgender children were accepted and treated by faculty at 3 different Granite schools. I've worked with and cared for gay and transgender people in my life in these different roles. I have a transgender child in junior high right now. If there's any debate or question about inclusion of gay and transgender youth in Utah schools, we should be discussing how to make their experience more equitable, more inclusive, until it's clear that they're getting the best education we can provide as a community and that they feel completely comfortable, because we as parents and educators owe children a welcoming environment. When I was a student 25 years ago, I was unfamiliar with the terms transgender and cisgender. I wish I'd learned these terms as a young student. Awareness fosters empathy and understanding. I would have been better prepared to meet diverse people in the Army and throughout my life if my education had been a little more expansive. There should be more books and stories about unique and notable people available for our children. Having conversations about other identities and cultures, it only enhances a person's life. I've traveled from Utah to Kuwait, Iraq, South Korea, Nicaragua, and Taiwan. I've met and worked with heterosexual, gay, cisgender, transgender people, Muslims, Hindus, Christians, and atheists. Many of our young Utah students may do what I've done and travel around the world and meet diverse and interesting people. SEL is a valuable part of our curriculum. Using accurate pronouns for each student is not only considerate, but it's a mature, inclusive way to interact with people, and it's a habit our students will use throughout their lives.
Thank you, Nathan. Ginevra Protherio. One day we'll get that right, okay?
It's okay.
Thank you.
So, hi, my name is Ginevra Prothero, and I am from Davis County, and I do go by she, her pronouns. And then I'm asking for you to please adopt a guideline to be able to help teachers be inclusive and loving. I'm wearing a shirt today that's got black and hearts, and I'm wearing it because I care about Black people, and I care about Black students, and I care about the LGBTQI community, and I care about women. In Davis County recently, the Department of Justice has come to help us, and I thank them. I'm thankful for the teachers and the parents that have been brave. I want you to know that there are going to be more complaints that I am personally sending to the Department of Justice because there are more problems in Davis County. We have sexual harassment. We have the LGBT community being harassed. And we have parents that are members of groups called AIM and Utah Parents United that are very dangerous within our community. I want our schools to be taught racist symbols. There are some racist symbols in this room right now, which makes me kind of scared to talk. Safety is key. And I just really want for our Black students to know that they're safe and to be able to actually be safe, not just feel safe, they need to be safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Gennaro. Okay, we're going to go back and see if we can get Jennifer Orton online. Jennifer?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, thank you, Jennifer. Thanks for hanging with us.
No problem. I am Jennifer Orton. My adjectives are awake and concerned, and I am asking that the board revise its policy 5001, section 2 to comply with the Title 54, Chapter 4 of the Open and Public Meetings Act. By every word in this act, the board's advisory committee access meets the definition of the term public body. First, it's an advisory body of a state political subdivision, the USBE. Second, it was created through a USBE resolution adopted in January 2016. Third, it also consists of 2 or more persons. Fourth, it is supported in whole or in part by tax revenue as the Access Committee receives reimbursement for travel expenses. Fifth, it is vested with the authority to make decisions regarding the public's business as manifested in drafts and proposals, such as R 277-328. Access's meeting also meets the definition of meeting in this act as they convene as a quorum in person or electronically for the purpose of discussing or acting upon a matter which they have advisory power. Yet despite meeting both of these definitions, Access in its 6 years of existence has not complied with Title 52's requirement that meetings of public bodies be accessible to the general public and provide a complete and unedited record of all open portions of their meetings from beginning to end. In fact, on July 13th, Sidney Dixon actually recommended that they shorten these and not provide these complete unedited records. The USBE says in its policy 5001 that access meetings are not subject to the Open and Public Meetings Act, but there's no citation of code line that confirms this assertion. Why is that? It's because no code exists that justifies them operating behind closed doors. Access, by any reasonable reading of Title 52, is not exempt from the public attending its meetings and the public being able to hear or view its meetings from start to finish in their entirety. We are asking the USBE, and I also would ask Brian Quesenberry to look into this and to bring its advisory committee access into full compliance with Title 52 to demonstrate a commitment to transparency in our children's public education and also to be compliant with the law.
That's
uphold the law
your time, Jennifer.
means, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for those who gave public comment today.